Hi, it's Sue. Thanks for joining me for today's Bible reading. It is for March 30th and just two chapters today. Chapter 13 and 14 from 1 Samuel. Verse 1. Saul was 30 years old when he became king, and he reigned over Israel 42 years. Saul chose for himself 3,000 men of Israel, of which 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash and in the mount of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin. Jonathan was his son. Doesn't say that here. He sent the rest of the people to their own tents. Jonathan struck the garrison of the Philistines that was in Geba, and the Philistines heard of it. Saul blew the trumpet throughout the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." All Israel heard that Saul had struck the garrison of Philistines, and also that Israel was considered an abomination to the Philistines. The people were gathered together after Saul to Gilgal. The Philistines assembled themselves together to fight with Israel. 30,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen, and people as the sand which is on the seashore in multitude. They came up and encamped in Michmash, eastward of Bethaven. When the men of Israel saw that they were in trouble, for the people were distressed, then the people hid themselves in caves and thickets, in rocks and tombs, and in pits. Now some of the Hebrews had gone over the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. But as for Saul, he was yet in Gilgal, and all the people had followed him trembling. He stayed 7 days according to the time set by Samuel, but Samuel didn't come to Gilgal, and the people were scattering from him. Saul said, "Bring the burnt offering here to me and the peace offering." And he offered the burnt offering, and it came to pass that as soon as he had finished offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him that he might greet him. Samuel said, "What have you done?" Saul said, "Because I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that you didn't come with me in the days appointed, and that the Philistines had assembled themselves together at Michmash. Therefore I said, now the Philistines will come down on me to Gilgal, and I haven't entreated the favor of Yahweh. I forced myself, therefore, and offered the burnt offering." Samuel said to Saul, "You have done foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of Yahweh your God, which he commanded you. For now Yahweh would have established your kingdom on Israel forever. But now your kingdom will not continue. Yahweh has sought for himself a man after his own heart, and Yahweh has appointed him to be prince over the people, because you have not kept that which Yahweh commanded you." Samuel arose and went from Gilgal to Gibeah of Benjamin. I picture him saying that a lot more forcefully. These men, these were tough men. Samuel wasn't some soft priest in a soft velvet robe. Maybe he did have a velvet robe, but I don't see that. And I see him being tough. He probably said, "You have done foolishly. What have you done? You haven't kept the commandment of God. And now look, God's going to raise up another king in place of you. And it's your fault." I see him pointing his finger in his face and just, you know, giving it to him because it was that serious. It affects the entire country or all the people of Israel. So here in verse 13, Samuel arose and went to Gilgal, to Gibeah of Benjamin. Saul counted the people who were present with him, about 600 men. Saul and Jonathan his son and the people who were present with them stayed in Gibeah of Benjamin, but the Philistines encamped in Michmash. The raiders came out of the camp of the Philistines in 3 companies. One company turned to the way that leads to Orpha, to the land of Shual. Another company turned the way to Beth Horon, and another company turned away to the border that looks down to the valley of Zeboim toward the wilderness. Now there was no blacksmith found throughout all the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, "Lest the Hebrews make themselves swords or spears." But all the Israelites went down to the Philistines, each man to sharpen his own plowshare, mattock, axe, and sickle. The price was 1 payim each to sharpen mattocks, plowshares, pitchforks, axes, and goads. So it came to pass in the day of the battle that neither sword nor spear was found in the hand of any of the people who were with Saul and Jonathan, but Saul and Jonathan his son had them. The garrison of the Philistines went out to the pass of Michmash. Now it fell on a day that Jonathan the son of Saul said to the young man who bore his armor, "Come and let us go over to the Philistine garrison that is on the other side." But he didn't tell his father. Saul stayed in the uttermost part of Gibeah under the pomegranate tree which is in Migron, and the people who were with him were about 600 men, including Ahijah the son of Ahitub, Ichabod's brother, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli the priest of Yahweh in Shiloh, wearing an ephod. The people didn't know that Jonathan was gone. Between the passes by which Jonathan sought to go over to the Philistine garrison There was a rocky crag on one side and a rocky crag on the other side, and the name of the one was Bozez, and the name of the other Seneh. The one crag rose up on the north in front of Michmash, and the other on the south in front of Geba. Jonathan said to the young man who bore his armor, "Come, let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that Yahweh will work for us, for there is no restraint on Yahweh to save by many or by few." Wow, that's some faith right there. He's like, God can do anything. Why can't he save through us? Why did you need a whole army? Amazing. Because in case you didn't catch that, he said, there is no restraint on Yahweh to save by many or few. His armor bearer said to him, "Do all that's in your heart. Turn and behold, I am with you, according to your heart." Then Jonathan said, "Behold, we will pass over to the men, and we will reveal ourselves to them. If they say thus to us, 'Wait until we come to you,' then we will stand still in our place and will not go up to them. But if they say, 'Come up to us,' then we will go up, for Yahweh has delivered them into our hand. This shall be the sign for us." Both of them revealed themselves to the garrison of the Philistines, and the Philistines said, "Behold, the Hebrews are coming out of the holes where they have hidden themselves." The men of the garrison answered Jonathan and his armor bearer and said, "Come up with us, and we will show you something." Jonathan said to his armor bearer, "Come up after me, for Yahweh has delivered them into the hand of Israel." Jonathan climbed up on his hands and on his feet, and his armor bearer after him, and they fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer killed them after him. That first slaughter which Jonathan and his armor bearer made was about 20 men, within, as it were, half a furrow's length in an acre of land. There was a trembling in the camp, in the field, and among all the people. The garrison and the raiders also trembled, and the earth quaked. So there was an exceedingly great trembling. The watchmen of Saul in Gibeah and Benjamin looked, and behold, the multitude melted away and scattered. So I guess that was some kind of earthquake God made. Then Saul said to the people who were with him, "Come now and see who is missing from us." When they had counted, behold, Jonathan and his armor bearer were not there. Saul said to Ahijah, "Bring God's ark here." For God's ark was with the children of Israel at that time. While Saul talked to the priest, the tumult that was in the camp of the Philistines went on and increased. And Saul said to the priest, "Withdraw your hand." Saul and all the people who were with him were gathered together and came to the battle, and behold, they were all striking each other with their swords in a very great confusion. Now the Hebrews who were with the Philistines before, who went up with them into camp from all around, even they also turned to be with their Israelites who were with Saul and Jonathan. Likewise, all the men of Israel who had hidden themselves in the hill country of Ephraim, when they heard that the Philistines fled, even they also followed hard after them in the battle. So Yahweh saved Israel that day, and the battle passed over by Beth-aven. The men of Israel were distressed that day, for Saul had adjured the people, saying, "Cursed is the man who eats any food until it's evening, for I am avenged of my enemies." So none of the people tasted food. All the people came into the forest, and there was honey on the ground. When the people had come to the forest, behold, honey was dripping, but no one put his hand to his mouth, for the people feared the oath. Jonathan didn't hear when his father commanded the people with the oath. Therefore he put his hand out with the rod who was in his hand, and dipped in the honeycomb, and put his hand to his mouth, and his eyes brightened. Then one of the people answered and said, "Your father directly commanded the people with an oath, saying, 'Cursed is the man who eats this today.'" The people were faint. Then Jonathan said, "My father has troubled the land. Please look how my eyes have brightened because I tasted a little honey. How much more if perhaps the people had eaten freely today of the plunder of the enemies which they found. For now has there been no great slaughter among the Philistines." Excuse me. They struck the Philistines that day from Michmash to Aijalon. The people were very faint, and the people pounced on the plunder, and took the sheep, cattle, calves, and killed them on the ground, and the people ate them with the blood. They told Saul, saying, "Behold, the people are sinning against Yahweh, in that they eat meat with the blood." He said, "You have dealt treacherously. Roll a large stone to me today." Saul said, "Disperse yourselves among the people, and tell them, every man bring me here his ox, and every man his sheep, and kill them here and eat. Don't sin against Yahweh in eating meat with the blood." All the people brought every man his ox with him that night, and killed them there. Saul built an altar to Yahweh. This was the first altar that he built to Yahweh. Saul said, "Let us go down after the Philistines by night, and take the plunder among them until morning light, and let us not leave a man of them." They said, "Do what seems good to you." Then the priest said, "Let us draw near here to God." Saul asked counsel of God, shall I go down with the Philistines? Will you deliver them into the hand of Israel? But he didn't answer him that day. Saul said, draw near here, all you chiefs of the people, and know and see which this sin has been today. For as Yahweh lives, who saves Israel, though it is in Jonathan my son, he shall surely die. But there was not a man among the people who answered him. Then he said to all Israel, you be on one side, and I and Jonathan my son will be on the other. The people said to Saul, do what seems good to you. Therefore Saul said to Yahweh, the God of Israel, show the right, Jonathan. Jonathan and Saul were chosen, but the people escaped. Saul said, cast lots between me and Jonathan my son, and Jonathan was selected. Then Saul said to Jonathan, tell me what you have done. Jonathan told him and said, I certainly did taste a little honey at the end of the rod that was in my hand, and behold, I must die. Saul said, God do so, and more also, for you shall surely die, Jonathan. The people said to Saul, shall Jonathan die who has worked this great salvation in Israel? Far from it. As Yahweh lives, there shall not one hair of his head fall to the ground, for he has worked with God today. So the people rescued Jonathan that he didn't die. So in other words, the people lost all confidence in Saul's judgment. And they just didn't do what he said because it was stupid, right? It didn't make any sense and it was poor judgment and they rebelled. That's why you need strong leadership, a good, solid, righteous leader. And because people have confidence and, be unified. So it says, excuse me today, my throat, my voice. So the people said, far from it, as Yahweh lives, there shall not one hair of his head fall to the ground, for he has worked for God today. So the people rescued Jonathan that he didn't die. Now it said he worked with God today, and that is true what happened. Verse 46, then Saul went up from following the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own place. Now when Saul had taken the kingdom over Israel, he fought against all his enemies on every side, against Moab, against Ammon, Edom, and against the kings of Zobah, and against the Philistines. Wherever he turned himself, he defeated them. He did valiantly and struck the Amalekites and delivered Israel out of the hands of those who plundered them. Now the sons of Saul were Jonathan, Ishvi, and Malchishua, and the names of his two daughters were these: the name of the firstborn Merab, and the name of the younger Michal. The name of Saul's wife was Ahinoam, the daughter of Ahimaaz. The name of the captain of the army was Abner, the son of Ner. Now these people, his younger daughter Michal comes into play later on in the story, and also his captain of his army, Abner, is a significant person in future. So it says, the name of the captain of his army was Abner, son of Ner, Saul's uncle. Kish was the father of Saul, and Ner, the father of Abner, was the son of Abiel. There was severe war against the Philistines all the days of Saul, and when Saul saw any mighty man or any valiant man, he took him into his service. And that's it for today's reading, chapters 13 and 14. Feel free to share your comments and use the links in the description and also the email address there if you'd like your free one-year Bible. Till tomorrow, shalom, shalom.